Hello to everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. It's another episode of NRG Insights, where we talk to people in the mortgage world, whether that be broking, lending, or any kind of affiliates, just in regards to their kind of insights into the market, anything interesting they've got to say, and generally people with influence in the markets.
Yeah, I started as a mortgage broker in the back of an estate agency office following an estate agency career. I went into a couple of larger businesses and then decided in 2007, brilliant timing, to go on my own. So I started about a month before Northern Rock had a run on it and then traded my then business through what was a small blip in the road, being the global financial
Small
crisis.
blip.
It's magical,
Worst financial
magical
crisis
stuff.
we've ever
Yeah,
been through.
superb timing yet again.
You know what? I know loads of businesses that grew in that were born out of that, and some of my best clients were born out of the travesty that was 2008.
Yeah, I try and talk about it. I don't know if you ever watched Forrest Gump. This is the worst analogy in the world, but I feel like I was Lieutenant Dan and Forrest Gump when they were sailing through on the boat, and he had
Stood up
something
on the
like
flag
yeah,
screaming.
exactly. I was like, come on, I can do this. So that's the analogy I use, and whether it's right or wrong, but that's how it felt.
Yeah.
To put that into context, but yeah, so I did that. And then I met with an old colleague of mine who was in one of the previous businesses, and he sort of suggested that we never went on holiday without about 30 case files, because that's what you did back then.
Yeah.
And you were running your cases from wherever it was, losing time with, well, I was losing time with my family at the time. So it seemed like a good idea to me to start something else with a partner, and that was Affinity. So we started that, I think it's 12 years ago now. He decided about 5 years in that he was going to go another direction, and I continued to run it from there on in, and now we find ourselves as a bit of a voice in there. Small mortgage brokerage, but mortgage protection, specialist finance, business protection.
You've got a few arms now as well, haven't you? You've got a few pillars to the business.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah,
downplaying it there
absolutely.
a bit with your small brokerage, but
Yeah, well, no, that's right. What we did was we went linear in terms of our growth. So instead of just growing numbers inside one part of the industry,
yeah.
what we thought was, right, let's attack all the spaces that we're really interested in. So private banking being one of them, business protection being the other, and obviously the mortgage mum, which we've got to talk about, was part of that journey as well. And that was a side hustle that grew quite big. So
A big one. So,
yeah,
in regards to the different pillars, has that made a difference to you in these more challenging times? Do you think that's made?
100%.
Do you think that's kind of
Yeah,
kept
100%.
the lights on? You know?
Yeah, 100%. I think because we niched in certain areas outside of London. I'm not suggesting that other people don't have private banking arms or
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sort of stuff.
There's
But what
also
we
an
try,
ecosystem there, isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. But what my goal, my dream of Affinity was that if anybody walked in wherever they were on life's journey, we'd be in terms of debt and protection, we'd be able to help them, and that was the dream. So then it was about trying to create it, and that took time. I'm not going to lie, and to find the right people who believed in that same sort of journey.
Yeah.
So that was sort of where we
Let's
are.
touch on.
Ads and I, we were working together about sort of 17 years ago. So it was a company called Liquid Financial at the time. So we left that sort of height of the crisis. We went our separate ways. So I went and started work at City Mortgage Solutions. Ads went to Keystone.
Yeah.
And then we obviously we're still friends, so we kept in touch, and we always, especially I suppose, in the last sort of 5 years before we set up Helix, always were discussing about sort of setting up a new business. And I think for us, it was more the fact that we do such different things in the industry. So ads is very much a focus on the quirkier side of things. So your bridge and your development commercial, and for me, it was I've always been on the regulated side of things. So that was sort of a difference, which we thought, yes, there are obviously a lot of companies which do bridge in development commercial and do the regulated, but we thought, look, to really make it work, it's best to almost split this as sort of two separate companies. So we almost sort of spearhead each one, and then sort of bring our own sort of unique skills along to it.
Nice. And Dave, although Adam has answered most of yours for you, do you want to chip in?
Yeah, I haven't really got anything else to add to that, apart from, yeah, as DT said, having started in personally 2007, just before the great financial crash, we've been through a lot since then. A lot of economic uncertainty and historic events. We've just kind of stuck with it. We've always been self-employed, but under different banners, so to speak, and different companies. But in 2021, we set up Helix, which was ours, so we could be the captain of our own ship.
So what was the catalyst for that then? Because obviously you've known each other for years. You could have done it at any point. Why 2021? Let's do it now. What was the reason for starting?
Well, I think it just felt right at that sort of time, really. I think both of us were in a situation where, in our existing, so like I left City and still keep in touch with the guys there. We're actually an AR of their firm now, so there was no ill intention of us leaving. It just felt like it was the right time to go. I think it's like we had some ideas of what we were going to do with the business. I think, look, at City there wasn't much of a focus on the bridge and development commercial side of things. I'd done odd bits of bridging before, but didn't know as much about it as obviously as Ad did. So it just felt naturally the right time sort of to push on and do it, to be honest.
Yeah. Do you think that's important? Do you think that's an important part when people are looking at, well, number one, looking at business partners and also timing? I don't think there's ever a perfect time to start a business. But any advice you can give to people on when that is? Because you did wait quite a long time, didn't you? Consider, 17 to you knew each other for 13, 14 years before that. Is that right? And then,
Yeah, so we met at Liquid Financial Management in 2007. So we've been colleagues before friends.
Did you know that you were going to be business partners for years before you became business partners, or was it like a?
I hope not.
Well, to be fair, I remember when we were working together, we did flirt with the idea at some point in the future we'd probably end up working back together again. How it's ended up, mate, I think we always knew we'd certainly always be friends. You were an usher at my wedding. I wasn't one at yours.
So you're not bitter about it.
So not that I harbour any grudges.
I think look, COVID pushed things back, but both had a little one that was around sort of similar time. So probably maybe 3 or 4 years would have probably been the sort of the ideal time. But I actually in some way think it's probably good because obviously being self-employed in this industry anyway is I think that's a hard bit in itself because you've got loads of different things you have to learn. You have to learn about doing your own sort of accounting. The first part as well when you're setting out to actually get your lead sources into the business itself. So I think we felt that we're at that point where actually now let's how do we move on? What is the next step in our career? And so we could have both carried on at our sort of our firms, but I don't know. It just as I said, I keep saying it just felt like the right time to do it.
I did some property development myself, and I always felt there was a tech play in this space. So I come from residential like mortgage brokerage background, like that was my bread and butter. And what had happened through the course of me being involved in that side of things is almost everything was completely online. So all lender portals, sourcing systems, like CRMs, etc. Everything was very digitally focused. But then in this space, commercial real estate finance, there was almost nothing. And I was always curious as to why. That one, you've got a bank, for example, that operates in commercial real estate. Take Barclays. They operate in commercial real estate and they operate in residential buy-to-let. And on the residential and buy-to-let side, everything is completely automated. There's digital underwriting. It's very slick. It's very efficient. Well, you could argue it's not that slick and efficient, but like it's designed to be, right? But then on the commercial side, you've got almost none of that. So I was always curious as to why. And there are reasons as we've sort of found out, but I guess, like I say, I always thought there was a tech play in this space. And the thing for me was when I was doing my own projects was I found it very hard, even with like a 10 plus year background in the space, to know that I had best value. And so in my head, I thought, well, if I'm struggling, how does Joe Public do it? And the answer is they don't, right? Most people in the space, they don't get the best loan, they don't get the best leverage. There's always someone that can probably do a slightly better deal. but because of the lack of transparency and opaqueness, you'll never actually know. So yeah, for me, the lack of efficiency and the connectivity, which is really what for me technology solves, right? Connectivity and efficiency. That was really lacking. So we set about trying to index the market firstly, as a sourcing system, and then when we realised that a sourcing system wouldn't work in the industry because none of the lenders had online portals, we decided to design the application part of the process as well. So on the platform, if for those that aren't familiar, you can come on, you can source a loan, but then you can actually go all the way through to application with any of our lenders. So we've got 79, 80 lenders now.
I knew it would go well because of my drive and my determination to, which I think is the main thing that makes you successful. But I just didn't realise it would go so well. So I couldn't be happier, to be honest, with how it's going.
This is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, because people, it's kind of sometimes a bit of a slow burner when people set off, and I know you've had a great start and that kind of thing, but and this kind of has to delve into a bit of what makes you great, so it always makes people uncomfortable. But what's the difference maker? Why is it that? Because lots of people are driven, right? There's lots of people that can, or say they're driven. What do you think the difference maker is, that you've come out the blocks and you've been able to kind of pick up those relationships and that kind of thing? Even working for someone previously, you went up through the ranks quite quickly in regards to how much business you're writing. What do you think? What do you think makes you a little bit different?
I do know that people do have drive, but I think a lot of people tell themselves they've got drive or tell others they've got drive, but do they really have it? And I do think that's massive. Like, I probably, which I don't think is something to be proud of, but I'm obsessed, which is maybe a wee bit different. So the first thing I think about, which probably makes me sound like quite a bad mum, but I'm not, I'm actually a good mum, but the first thing I think about when I wake up in the morning is business. Like, I'm sometimes working till 3 o'clock in the morning, and I still know that's nothing. People talk about work-life balance, all that, and I do know that will come, but I have very much like set my expectations that the first 2 years I will be working maybe 100-hour weeks, etc. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm still young, like, and I feel like I've got, if I can put the next 5 years into everything I can, while still being there as a mum for my kids as well, but everything I can into the business, then hopefully in 5 years' time I can be 40 and take a bit of a back seat, which would be unreal at my age to be able to have, like, be able to do that. And by that time the kids will be older, we'll be able to, like, go holidays that I'll actually remember and stuff as well. So I think I'm happy to take the short-term loss.
I mean, you've had great successes, but it takes years, doesn't it? And it's
I mean, it's very again, I just keep using that word naive, but it's probably representative. But we were very fortunate to have MAB put their trust in us a couple of years ago and invest in us as a business, which has been tremendous. It's been absolutely brilliant. New ideas.
Obviously, it's cash on the table. We're not going to talk about that, but I mean, what does it mean for you as a business when you get invested in? What did it mean for your like, plan wise?
It's supercharged us, if I'm honest. I mean, you have that sort of period of time where there's a hell of an adaptation, right? So we didn't come from within the MAB network.
You've never had a boss either, have you? Like, you've never had anyone to.
Not for a long time.
You've got a boss now, but you've never had anyone else to, like, accountability-wise, have you? So.
That's different. Albeit, what I would say with MAB is it doesn't feel like that. It feels like a partnership, and I'm not just blowing smoke here, because they would happily take the good and bad feedback, and we're very honest with each other in the way that we operate. But after that initial adaptation, which I think is inevitable, we'd operated under Primus's umbrella for a decade, right? And so all of your systems and processes have been built around that model. That was amazing. Primus helped us so much, and helped us kind of go on that journey. You then move into MAB world, which there are similarities, obviously, but there are also differences in the way that they do things. And once you get through that initial, realistically, kind of 12 months of, okay, this is how we do that now, and that's a bit different. And you only really find these things as you go. Once you're through that, it's brilliant. And now we've got.
I always hear when people join new networks. Sorry, I keep biting into it.
No, it's fine.
But when people join new networks, it does always seem to be that first 12 months where they're like, oh, this isn't what we thought it was going to be. And actually, you can't be resistant to change, can you? Because you've got to adapt, right? It's just they're not all the same.
you've got to embrace it. I mean, we, probably guilty of that during some of that sort of transition period. We're like, oh God,
Well,
what's
no one
this
likes
all
change,
about?
do
But
they? You've built a business the way you've built
human
it.
beings,
Yeah.
we don't like it, do we? So,
Yeah.
but now that we're through that transition, it's very, very exciting, and what MAB have brought to us is fresh set of eyes. You've had one network kind of helping you for 10 years. It stands to reason that if you then start to work with somebody else in a much more sort of hands-on way, then they're going to bring new ideas. It's inevitable, and it's been great. You get exposure to new people.
Does it feel like a bigger business because it's part of a bigger business when you have that? I'm interested. I'm just genuinely interested in what it feels like when you get invested in. If it happens to us one day, it's amazing. But
it is amazing.
Does the business change so much, or is it?
Again, and I'm not just saying this to be nice in public, but what MAB do is they're very clear that they recognise that what you've done historically has what's got you to where you are. So there's no sort of meddling aspect. There's no you're never going to get somebody saying, well, you must do it like this now. There's always a conversation, and it does feel you do feel safer. Funny enough, because you've got a sort of network of people to fall back on who are not just there from a regulatory standpoint. They're also investors.